What do you think was the worst year in human history? A bold question, isn't it? One that might send your mind whirring through the annals of time, sifting through epics of wars, pandemics, or natural disasters. But what if I told you that the darkest year is one you may not even have thought of, a year so calamitous it left an indelible stain on the fabric of humanity? Now let's dive into history and unravel the events of a year that many historians consider the worst. The year in our spotlight is 536 AD. As we turn the pages back to over a millennium ago, we find ourselves in the midst of the early Middle Ages, a period often referred to as the Dark Ages. Civilizations, as we know them today, were still taking shape. The Roman Empire, once a symbol of grandeur, was now fragmented, giving rise to smaller, disparate kingdoms across Europe. In the east, the Gupta Empire in India was on the decline, while China was under the rule of the northern and southern dynasties. But in the grand scheme of human history, 536 AD was just another year, or so it would seem. Life was hard, and the comforts we take for granted today were far from reality. Yet, even by the standards of the time, this particular year stood out. It stood out not for extraordinary achievements or groundbreaking discoveries, but for unparalleled hardship. But what made 536 AD earn the grim title of the worst year? A climate catastrophe struck the Earth in 536 AD. Imagine the world as you know it suddenly shrouded in a dense, chilling fog. This was the reality for our ancestors in Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. This wasn't the work of some malevolent deity, but rather the aftermath of a colossal volcanic eruption in Iceland. Strangely enough, the eruption itself was not the primary concern. It was the enormous cloud of ash and sulfur dioxide that it spewed into the stratosphere. This volcanic fog enveloped the northern hemisphere, blocking out the sun's rays and plunging the world into a year-long winter. It was as if someone had dimmed the sun, casting a perpetual twilight over the land. Now, you may think that a year without summer sounds like an extended holiday. But in reality, it was a nightmare. The drop in temperatures had a devastating impact on agriculture. Crops failed, pastures withered, and famine gripped the land. It wasn't just the cold that was the problem. The lack of sunlight meant that plants couldn't photosynthesize properly. Food reserves dwindled, livestock starved, and the people followed suit. The repercussions were not just confined to the food supply, the entire ecosystem was thrown into chaos. Birds migrated out of season, river flows changed, and forests stopped growing. Survival became a daily struggle for all forms of life. This wasn't a localized event either. The effects were felt far and wide, from the frosty fields of Scandinavia to the sun-baked sands of Arabia, from the bustling markets of Constantinople to the quiet monasteries of Ireland, from the Great Wall of China to the tribal lands of the Native Americans. It was a global catastrophe. The world of 536 AD was a harsh, unforgiving place. Our ancestors had to contend with an environment that was actively trying to snuff out life. Their resilience in the face of such adversity is a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. The sun dimmed, and the world plunged into a cold, hungry darkness. As if the climate catastrophe wasn't enough, 536 AD also marked the start of the Plague of Justinian. A disaster of epic proportions, this plague was no ordinary outbreak, but one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. Named after the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I, who himself contracted the disease but survived, the plague was a dark cloud that blanketed the empire and beyond. The Plague of Justinian was caused by Yersinia pestis, the same bacterium responsible for the infamous Black Death centuries later. It's believed to have originated from rodents and fleas in Central Africa or Asia, then traveled via trade routes to the bustling metropolis of Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. One can only imagine the horror as the disease spread like wildfire. Symptoms were gruesome and terrifying: fever, chills, weakness, and swollen, painful lymph nodes or buboes, hence the term bubonic. Despite the best efforts of physicians of the time, there was no effective treatment. The plague was a death sentence for many, with mortality rates estimated at up to 50% in some areas. The devastation was immense. It's estimated that at the height of the pandemic, deaths could have reached up to 5,000 per day in Constantinople alone. Over the course of the plague's multiple waves, which spanned over 2 centuries, it's believed that anywhere from 25 to 100 million lives were lost. This was a significant portion of the world's population at the time, causing not just immense loss of life, but also profound socio-economic repercussions. In the face of such adversity, human resilience was tested to its limits. People sought solace in their faith, their communities, and in the hope for a better future. But the Plague of Justinian was a grim reminder of the fragility of human life and the devastating impact of disease. The world was not only cold and hungry, but it was also sick and dying. Yet, even in the darkest times, the human spirit has a remarkable ability to endure and to find a way to move forward. The story of the Plague of Justinian is as much a testament to our vulnerability as it is to our resilience. The world was in chaos, and the socio-economic structures were not left unscathed. The disasters of 536 AD had far-reaching effects that went beyond the immediate devastation. Trade, the lifeblood of many ancient societies, was severely disrupted. The climate catastrophe had led to crop failures and widespread famine, which in turn affected the production of goods. Traders found their caravans empty, markets desolate, and the once thriving trade routes were now paths of desperation. The economy too was hit hard. With agricultural output dwindling, economies based on farming faced a sudden collapse. The scarcity of food and basic necessities led to skyrocketing inflation rates. The value of currency plummeted, and barter became the order of the day. Social structures were also shaken to their core. As resources dwindled, competition for survival intensified. Communities turned against each other, leading to social unrest and increased violence. The societal fabric was torn apart, and the class divide widened, with the rich hoarding resources and the poor left to fend for themselves. The political landscape was not immune to these changes either. The weakened economy and social unrest led to the downfall of many kingdoms. Power vacuums were created, paving the way for new powers to rise. In Europe, the Merovingian dynasty and the Frankish kingdom started to gain power. In the East, the Sasanian Empire started to wane, paving the way for the rise of the Islamic Caliphate in the following century. These shifts in power dynamics had long-lasting effects, influencing the course of history for centuries to come. The socio-economic changes of this period laid the groundwork for the Middle Ages, shaping the world in ways that are still evident today. The year 536 AD not only tested the resilience of humanity, but also reshaped the world as they knew it. And as we look back, we realize that the worst year in human history was not just about survival, but also about transformation and resilience. The world did not stay in this grim state forever. In the wake of such devastation, humanity, as it always does, found a way to rise from the ashes. The recovery process was slow and arduous, but it was also a testament to our species' resilience and adaptability. Civilizations around the globe had to adapt to a new reality. In Europe, the Byzantine Empire, though severely weakened, managed to regain its footing. New agricultural practices were adopted to cope with the altered climate, and innovative architectural techniques were developed to rebuild the cities that had been laid to waste. In Asia, the Chinese dynasties were also grappling with the aftermath. They focused on strengthening their infrastructure, building canals and roads to facilitate trade and communication, and fostered advancements in technology and education. The process was not overnight. It took several decades, even centuries, for the world to fully recover. But eventually the dark clouds began to lift. The climate gradually returned to its pre-catastrophe state. The Plague of Justinian became a distant, albeit painful memory. The economies stabilized and societies, though forever changed, began to flourish once again. The aftermath of the year 536 serves as a stark reminder of our shared humanity. It reminds us of our capacity to endure, to adapt, and to rebuild. It underscores the power of human resilience in the face of adversity. Humanity endured, adapted, and emerged from this dark period, forever scarred yet undeniably resilient. So, when we ask about the worst year in human history, 536 AD stands as a strong contender. This year saw a climate catastrophe of epic proportions, when a volcanic eruption blanketed the sky with ash, leading to a global drop in temperatures and a year without a summer. This, in turn, caused widespread crop failures and famine. But it didn't stop there. The Plague of Justinian, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, swept through the Byzantine Empire, leaving millions dead in its wake. The socio-economic impact of these events was profound, causing political upheaval and economic turmoil. However, despite the darkness of this year, the human spirit proved resilient. Society eventually recovered, adapted, and moved forward. The aftermath saw advancements in agriculture and societal structures that laid the groundwork for future civilizations. While we hope never to see a year as devastating as 536 AD, it serves as a stark reminder of the resilience and adaptability of humanity in the face of overwhelming adversity.